Okay. So we talked about managed Wi-Fi when we started today. We talked about managed Wi-Fi being the very first use case that most people were doing, but no coincidence that the next greatest lowest hanging fruit of use cases of things that people wanted to start doing with this architecture was speed testing. And to talk about that today with the new ways of doing speed testing is Eric Van Uden from AVM.
Good morning to everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the Broadband Forum again for a fantastic week. I liked it, and I think we made a lot of progress in the working groups we did early this week. And yesterday is very interesting to see, okay, the translation of what I've seen the last days into more projects and things and stuff. This will be a little tricky. Why it's tricky? Because you see, I'm using my own notebook. And I thought we have enough time, so let's try, because I have some live demo. But first of all, I hope it will work. There it is. AVM. Who is AVM? What is AVM? And where do we stand for? In fact, AVM is German. So I have a little bit problem because I'm Dutch, working for a German company, doing a presentation in English. So after some beer in the evening, so okay, hard time. Anyway, we're very proud of being a German company, and with our development done in the beautiful city of Berlin, and our production for the most of our products is done in Europe. And due to geopolitical issues and all the elements you have seen, that helped us several times to make this decision and to do it in the European base. What do we do is, in fact, that we are a manufacturer of routers in Germany, well known under the name of Fritz boxes. And we're very proud that we see in almost every provider in the German market a Fritz box. But it's not only Germany. If you look to the other countries in the European markets, because mainly targeting on the European market are Italy, Austria, Switzerland, Benelux, and some extra countries are popping up. We are different. We always say ourselves as a little bit, Asterix and Obelix, as this village there in the western part of France, and that's more or less as we are. So we do things on the other way that you may used to. The interesting part is that we always develop products with a vision of an end customer. Our customer are the internet service providers, but we build a product with a vision of an end customer. And the interesting part of this presentation is that there you find the link between the end customer and the ISP and regulators. And for the industry, as I was coming here from the Broadband Forum, we said we have to do something to get rid of false rumors, get rid of false information. Let's standardize this. So what's the problem? And I think a lot of international countries will laugh about the situation what we have here in Germany. And I was last year, I was here at the Axios summit. And on this railway station was a big, huge advertisement of one of the providers. You can order 100 meg. Very large and very proud. To go away, 100 meg as an internet service. I live in the Netherlands. It starts at 1 gig, more or less. And if you look to Switzerland, they start more or less already at 8.5, 10, or 25, or even we heard this week as well, or 50 gigs. So it's available now. So then I was a little bit surprised. Okay, 100 meg here in Germany. Okay. Okay, that's the fact. But let's continue. And if you have on those high-speed networks, so we are on those multiple gig networks, I am not aware that a person has an end device which can do a speed test above, let's say, this more than 1 gig. So the issue is the customer orders at his ISP a very high XGS PON line, suitable for 8.5 gig, and runs on his PC and reaches maximum, hooray, hooray, 1 gig, and starts to complain at the internet provider, you don't deliver me what I ordered. So within that, as an industry, including in the broadband forum, we have to do something. We have to show, we have to prove the customer as well to the regulators, we do deliver the speed as you ordered. And I say, with this disabling the in-home network, because I can't write down disabling the user. But that's in fact what we're doing. We try to wipe out the user and do all those tests within the system. Because everyone knows speed, or the end-to-end speed, is related to the Wi-Fi quality, the quality of the in-home cabling, hardware already mentioned, and NIC normally runs maximum 1 gig. Yes, there are some guys that can have a 10 gig, but it's just for a small group. I'm really sure that the group who has already a 10 gig interface are aware what they're doing, and those are not the case where we have to do those automated speed tests. The only thing what we like to do, and the only thing we like to prove, is the quality of the link speed. That's it. Not more, not less. The regulator here in Germany, this is more or less one of the issues, encourage people to do a speed test, and we're not reaching the speed, complain at your provider. Yeah, as already said, Houston, we have a problem. As already said several times, we think, including start from the broadband forum, we think that we can do it better. So we already had for issue 4, that popped up this slide, this standard, and the whole thing is very honest, very, very clear. This presentation goes about implementing and running this by using what I've seen on some t-shirts, legacy systems like TR-069 or USB. But the basis, the whole basis of this whole system is based on Broadband UDPST. So that's more or less the fundament of all those speed testing. But I think if you are as an provider, you want to do it in an automatic way. So from my point of view, I encourage you to use, and I must say in this case, USB TR-369, because we already learned 69 is legacy. Interesting. But what it is, I just stole a picture from the standard, so don't blame me for that. It looks very easy, and from my point of view, because I'm not really the deep technical bits and bytes expert, but this is very easy. There is one remark. If you do those kind of speed tests, might be useful that you are offering a server which can handle those speeds. So if you say we will run speed tests above 1 gig, then you must offering a server. It's very clear, but you have to do it. And some people forgot it and thank God there's no, oh shit, why can't I reach those speeds? So what I'll show you, because that's the tricky part I already mentioned, what I'll show you is that I have a speed test, installed the system, a live demo system based on VDSL. So don't shoot me or don't blame me, that's very low. No, it's just VDSL. So, but anyway, the mechanism and the whole process looks exactly the same. So from my point of view, it's not so complicated. And in most cases of those tests, you do 2 tests, 1 upload, 1 download, you present, and that's it. So I'm ready with my presentation because in fact, that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. But let's go a little bit in detail. And I was very, very, very proud by myself that this is my first AI-generated picture. Exactly. I liked it. So never done it. And I said, I need a picture. And I was scrolling by all the content we have internally. And I need something. And I thought by myself, I can make a picture by myself or like everyone does. Okay, let's try it. And let's find out, does AI help me with this? And it's very easy. And of course, sorry for that, you find here it's based on the 69 standard, so as seen, sorry, legacy. But anyway, the mechanism is more or less the same. There's no difference between those things. From my point of view, and that's why I find this very important, we have to do something, because as we have learned this week as well several times, nowadays let's focus on Europe. And nowadays in Europe, we have those XGS-PON, maximum 10, realistic 8.5. But if you look into the near future, from my point of view, we're moving into 25, 50, and even more. So this will be more valid in the future as well. So it's there to stay from my point of view. Now we are entering a little bit nerd discussion. I just looked up how does it work. So I did some lessons, and I took I read both of the specs. So from the Open Broadband UDPST and TR-471, and even I can understand it. It's not so complicated. So it's easy. So I'm thinking, why don't we use this on every location? Because from my point of view, it will help you to get rid of complaints from your end customers in a very easy way. And as already said, it can run on both of the systems. This is based from the TR-16 USB, but it can run on both. So it's not so complicated. And the interesting part of this whole protocol is that the fields you have to address are even you can do a lot. You can have all the details, but there's no need to have and to fill in all the details. Just a sender address, send, receive, packet size, more or less that's it. It's more than enough to start those types of tests. Repeating myself, it's not so complicated. What might be interesting is that the whole system will present the outputs based on a JSON file. So you have to present this in a nice graphical way, or you have to store it. So that's a little bit of work, but as already know, that's normal daily business again. So make it yourself easy. It's there, use it. Then I asked several vendors of controllers and ACS systems, what do you have? And this is an example of AV system. So they represent, you see it in the blue box. The way they present it is very easy. Just this is the information. This is how it is. That's it. And this I will show you later on in the live demo. This is from EasySol, and I hope, because that's I said this is the tricky part. I have to do the live demo. But again, this looks easy. It is easy, and you can reproduce it very, very rapidly. And last but not least, because thank you to our sponsor, Axiros has this as well in their system. It can represent this, present this in always a graphical way. And always we use, of course, as an example, Fritzbox. But the Fritzbox is not the holy grail. You can run it on several systems, but there is one really big important but. Be aware that the SOC must be able to do this. So including at our side, we have some hardware versions you can't do this because the SOC is too old and can't handle those type of processes. But if you look to the modern SOCs, modern designs, they can do this, they can handle it, and there is no need to have additional hardware or expensive hardware to do those things. There are some chip vendors are asking a lot of money to run a speed test. You can do it, but we think it can be a little bit more easy. As already said, and I just stolen some logos on the market who are active in this environment, and more or less those are companies who are active in the field of TR-69 and 369. And as far as I did my small research, everyone is working on it, or they have it already available, or are working on those types of services, because they see exactly the same as we see. This will be more and more important in the future. So, and now we go entering to The interesting part, and this will be the live demo. So I have to stop it. And
You're very brave.
Yeah, not there. Yeah, shoot me when I'm ready. Yes. First of all, this is the user interface of the Fritzbox. And what you see here is that I have already did some tests, or including this morning. And this is from the, first of all, it's from the downloads. You see here the spikes. And if you go down, you see here the upload. So it's real traffic on a Fritzbox. As said, connected to a normal, in this case, in Netherlands, legacy VDSL line. So there's nothing strange here, but just to show that the implementation, how we did this is very, very easy. Switching, and I hope this will work. Yes. This is always funny when things have worked. Well, what we did, and this is a thank you for, in this case, EasySol to support me on this. This is their user interface. There's a lot of technical stuff behind, but the only thing what we need is for dumb people like me that I can work with those tools and I can present it. And in this case, what is relevant is the whole speed test stuff. And on my special request, because I was member of the IP version 6 task force in the Netherlands, IPv4 is, we talk about a legacy, is legacy. Let's do it on IP version 6. And the only thing what I do is push a button that will run something. And after a few seconds, I hope,
10 to be exact.
it is so easy like that. Yeah, almost there. Yep, there we are. Very easy. That's it. So we have an historical overview from what happened. This is interesting because if now becomes very relevant if the guys who are on the legacy VDSL technologies, what happened here? Because this is a non-vectored VDSL line, so normal cases should more or less always the same. This is very interesting to see. But anyway, for the presentation, it's cool that I have it over there, so you can see it. And this is more or less what you can do from your, as an ISP by yourself. Run those tests every week or every whatever, how do you like it? And you have historical information. And even better on that, when you see there are some things going down, you can proactively react on it and help your customer and yourself to do something on the performance and to have a look, okay, how can I help and how can I understand what's happening in my network? And this is from the upload as well. It's very easy and very easy to represent it in all those systems. As you can see, I did several tests in IP version 4 and IP version 6. It looks always the same. And that's the only thing it is. Quite easy. Last but not least, a little bit out of band, but if you say more or less what we have seen, the same situation is, and I hope this works as well. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. That's the one. More or less exactly the same. This goes a little bit, but it is run on the same system. Let's take the opportunity to show you. This is the first one, the big circle is my Fritzbox. The smaller circle is a repeater. And I can see in this case, you see here, it's almost on the edge of the circle. So this might be a little bit run into problems if you look into signal quality. And because of the name, I know this is a TV set-top box. We run IPTV services from KPN over Wi-Fi as a test, and works quite well. But in this case, it's very easy to see, okay, when I have an issue, people can see it, and this will be very easy to present. And this is just an example from ESOL, and almost every ISP or a controller have more or less can reproduce those types of information the same way. You have to just do it. And from my point of view, because then I can use it as well, make it easy, make it simple. So I like this. This is very understandable, and this is very easy. Also, you can represent this to your customers and say, okay, I see you're not you're too far away from your access point, you're too far away from your repeater. So then you have, in this case, that's the conclusion of my talk. With this, you're able to do the in-home quality using those whole measurements of Wi-Fi. And I said it will become more and more important is the quality of the ultrasound, in this case, the link speed. So this will be it. Very short because I realize I'm between the break, so I have to.
We got plenty of time for questions, so.
Okay, any questions?
Thank you, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Morning.
Is there also any information about latency of connection, not just download traffic volume?
As far as I know, and I have to look to my colleagues, we're just measuring speeds, and there is no latency at this moment, but I'm not 100% sure, but I can find it out for you. So
Actually, if you go back to the slide from Xerox.
Very smart, Daniel.
I see what you did there.
Just to answer Volker's question, right? So there's actually a lot of information that you get from, TR-471. So it's not just the speed. In fact, it's called IP layer capacity for a reason.
Yeah, can I jump in? Because like it definitely does latency. It can also do latency at like 0 rate. So like you can make it pretty versatile overall for UDPST.
Yeah, but the main reason for this is actually that you can do a lot more than just with a speed test. So what you see on this graph, for instance, it has some graphs, so there's more pages that contain information. So it will give you also things like jitter. So if you run the speed test, it will tell you exactly, how much time delay and variation is there in between the sending and the receiving of the packets. So you will get things like jitter, minimum, maximum, average. You will get the latency minimum. So basically what you see in this graph is it's taking multiple measurements over time, and it's basically just plotting the thing. So in the top left, you see the speed. That's what you were looking for, but there's a lot more information. And you can actually use this to also do things like quality of service and insurance. By just continuously measuring this from the operator side and then basically applying some rules on top of that.
Thank you for your help, Daniel.
Yeah. So two quick questions. Are you implementing using directly from like the OB-UDPST?
Can you please repeat the question?
Are you using the OB-UDPST
as far as I was informed by my colleagues, yes, we do.
Okay, cool. And have you thought about using, because the neat thing is the same code as the sender or the receiver from like the server perspective, right? Like on that, have you thought about implementing it so you can make measurements between like the Wi-Fi repeater you were showing and the box in the home, so you can actually check that path too?
Very good. At this moment, not. At this moment, we're just aiming on the, let's say it on the, but from my point of view, there's an interesting development direction to do that. But at this moment, just aiming on the link speed.
Wow.
Yeah, just inspired by this conversation we're having, as we're moving from the idea of speed and the perception of the user, and then I would say regulators on just speed. We work in a strategic move for the forum services-led QoE, QoS. I think it's a structural project, and so it's less of a Q&A for you, but I think we should think about ways of converting QoS stuff in something that becomes meaningful for the users, for the regulators, and then of course for operators to say, okay, you know what? There is a color to your connectivity service, and the color is not just the blue of the 1 gig, 1.5 gig, but, and of course we should be able to provide it in a way that really says, okay, latency is translating something that is, you know what, this is the green light for your gaming service or whatever.
Correct.
But-
And I fully agree with you. And if I'm also active within the RIPE, and this goes more or less in the same direction, to prove that I have speed interesting, but it's not the only relevant topic nowadays. So yeah, I fully agree with you. So the latencies that you have to get rid, or in this case, you have to present, is absolutely true. But if you look to the Bundesnetzagentur, so the regulator here in Germany, they are only on this moment on the speeds. They don't care about latency and all those stuff. And I think on a regulatory base in the future, it will change from my point of view. So they will also include all those stuff. But I don't hope there's any regulator on board, but are always a little bit behind the realistical things if you look to a market. We can sorry. If you look,
It'll be differently.
if you look, this a small sidestep. If you look what they published, there is a presentation, and we have seen this on the RIPE. There is throwing out over the telecom industry 126 rules, regulations, and so on. 126. We had this as well in the early this week, so it's a nightmare. And from my point of view, if you look in regulator, there are really some interesting parts. I think, okay, I do understand, like this Cyber Resilience Act. I really do understand the backgrounds on how to do it. The implementation and how it's a nightmare. Look to the NIS2 regulation, and it's also a nightmare because every country has its own dates when they're rolling out all those stuff. So I fully agree. Regulator can help us, but in most cases they are blocking the whole industry. Sorry for that.
Which again, another strategic element for the Broadband Forum for us as a community is, let's not have the regulators do new rules without being helped. So we need to anticipate. I think that we are on top of this wave. Maybe we should think about speeding up certain outcomes of the QoE projects. Of course, the technical details will need a certain time, but we need to be on top of that. And also we are, talking about reestablishing a dialogue with the regulators.
Yeah.
On the grounds that rather than don't go to consultants that of course provide you a report and you just take it and rule, just talk to us and we do the best for, our consumers. That's what I
can't speak
the best
for-
thing to do.
I can't speak for the Broadband Forum, but the Broadband Forum works all over the whole world. If from my point of view, they still have a liaison directly into the European Committee and maybe even in other phase to understand and to help them, and sometimes okay, this is your vision, but we from the Broadband Forum, as we are building those standards, we think it might be better that way. So there's a lot of work,
And it just takes a while. Yeah.
Just to add to this conversation, because regulators can be a pain in the proverbial, but they also can be allies.
Yeah.
And we already are receiving questions from regulators in the BBF to ask the question, how do we monitor the quality, including latency, jitter, and everything like that? The difference being is they want to do it continuously, having a benchmark. Because let's be blunt, the average subscriber is using this when there's a problem that they're seeing, where the regulator wants to see the quality generically, especially when you're using public funding for building networks. So we are already having those questions, and they are coming to us already and saying, how could we do it? Now that's a good model, not saying this is what you're doing. How could we do it?
There will be a chapter in my memoirs titled "I'm sorry I told the FCC to use TR-143."
And by the way, I'm going to do a shameless plug. TR-471 does continuous latency checking. It's not just a ping test. And that's a plus. Thank you. Sorry, I missed that if it was already there.
Yeah, hello. I really like the discussion. It's got me to new ideas, also about the server as it's open source. It could be an idea to establish maybe Steam as one of the biggest game publisher, so that they might install the server that you as a provider can force. So you can choose the different servers to select, and so you could prove your gamer that Steam is good in latency and you have not so many hops in between. So that could be also an idea to get some publisher or some important services like Zoom on board so that they install the server, and like it's kind of like a monopoly of speedtest.net. Everyone is pointing to it, and we could make the UDP speedtest server as something like that because of the benefits to really get it from the box to the servers and really test there the speed. So maybe that's also an idea for the future to publish that.
And not for nothing, but there is sort of a behind the scenes from the Broadband Forum perspective of figuring out how it is that we reach out to those stakeholders, right? The ones that are the biggest application providers in the world and the ones that operators get blamed for when they don't work.
Yeah, just to add to that point, the end developers liking things like a Google TV stick or whatever. I personally could have used that to troubleshoot a problem, but I wanted to encourage everyone to participate in the OB-UDPST open source project that the Broadband Forum has. It meets every 2 weeks, and Len is doing a great job of shepherding it. And there's a lot of good data that Jan from one of the contributors has done measurements in various conditions, and it's all up there, and it's stuff that we need to, publish as, so people know about it.
With many, many thanks to the late Al Morton.
Yes, my name is Petri Savihti. I come from Granod, and we have a lot of experience with mobile operators doing this kind of a QoE. And for example, they are doing from this latency, jitter, packet loss KPIs, they are calculating for the VoLTE, so the voice service, this MOS value synthetically. And we've seen also same kind of development in the video services. So you can actually calculate this kind of a 1 to 5 estimation of the quality also from the video. So I think that those are things that definitely Broadband Forum should take a look on doing.
Awesome. Thank you. So what do we do about TR-143? It's out there. I don't know if people are entirely familiar with,
I've actually heard that some people are still using TR-143 for very specific reasons. And that is to do low bandwidth tests just to make sure that things don't go below a very low bandwidth hit. I don't know if it's the best reason to do it, but that I have heard of people doing that.
That's cool. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
That I was at, as you in your own words, at the Jason show. I really liked it. Thanks for that.
I will say one more thing about this. You showed the Top Gun meme, and a while back, the Domos guys and I had put together an alternate one where they're talking to each other, and he says, "I have the need for consistent and predictable latency."
Okay, thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, Eric.